Tonight, we'll be looking at 3 real home invasion stories submitted by people who woke up to the sound of someone in their house or came home to find their lives changed forever. These aren't movies. These are the ordinary, quiet moments that suddenly become terrifying. This happened to me when I was 21 and living alone for the first time. I just moved into a small 1-bedroom apartment above a laundromat. Rent was cheap, it was close to work, and I felt safe enough. It was late winter. The nights were long and quiet. One night, I woke up around 3 a.m. to the sound of my closet door scraping open. It was slow, like someone gently pushing it. At first, I thought it was the heater, or maybe the wind. I lay there listening, thinking if I stayed still, it would stop. Then I heard a soft, deliberate shuffle, like someone sliding their feet across the carpet. My heart started racing. I didn't want to move, didn't want to make a sound. I told myself, maybe a raccoon on the roof, maybe the building settling. Anything but the real thing. After what felt like forever, I fumbled for my phone with my eyes closed and tapped my flashlight on. I didn't turn the light on in the room. I didn't want to become a target. Instead, I aimed the beam toward the closet from under the blanket. The beam found the handle halfway open. You could see inside coats, boxes, nothing out of place. But then the light caught on something else. A hand gripping the back of the closet door, knuckles white. I swallowed and froze. I tried to move, to call out, to scream, but my throat had turned to concrete. The hand released and the closet door closed. The sound of it sliding shut was quiet, like a whisper. I grabbed my phone and texted a friend. Someone's in my closet. I hit send with trembling fingers. The reply took an eternity. I don't even remember what it said, only that I didn't feel safe waiting. I threw open my bedroom door and flicked on the halllight. The living room was empty, the front door locked, the windows latched. I grabbed a kitchen knife, dialed 911, and stood in the doorway of my bedroom with my back to the wall. The officers came, searched the apartment, found no sign of forced entry. No prints, no footprints in the dust. No one in the building who could explain it. They left with no answers. I moved out that week. I couldn't sleep in that apartment again. Years later, when I drove by, the building still had the same paint, the same cracked step. I never found out who reached through my closet door that night, but I still wake up sometimes, heart racing, convinced I hear a soft, deliberate shuffle. My parents lived in an older house on the edge of town. When I was 16, I spent the summer there, mowing the lawn, doing odd jobs, lots of free time. The house had a finished basement where we kept tools, a washer and dryer, and a bunch of boxes labeled Keep. One evening, my parents went out for dinner and said they'd be back late. I was home alone, and it was the kind of quiet summer night where the stars are bright and everything smells like cut grass. I was in the garage fixing a bike when I realized the basement light was on. We never left that light on. I remember thinking someone must have knocked over the switch, or maybe my little brother. When I opened the garage door, I could see the light spilling from the basement window, a dull, yellow rectangle. I walked up to the basement door and called out, "Hey, who's down there?" No answer. I should have called Mom, should have run, but I told myself it was nothing. I opened the door and felt a chill roll up my spine. The stairs were a little wet, like someone had tracked in water. At the bottom, the laundry basket lay on its side. A trail of damp footprints crossed the concrete floor and led to the back wall, where the basement window was cracked open just enough for a hand. My first thought was that someone had broken in earlier, maybe teenagers trying to mess with us, But then I noticed something else. The prints didn't match any shoes I owned. They were narrow and small, almost like someone had been barefoot. I backed up the stairs and grabbed my phone, but before I could call the police, I heard the old wooden back door creak. It wasn't the wind. It was a slow, careful push, like someone testing if it would open. I bolted to the back door and looked out. The yard was empty, the trees were still, no cars, no people. But the sound of wet sneakers scuffing across the patio reached me, and then there was a soft thump against the basement window from the outside. I called 911. While on the phone, I watched a shadow move across the window, slow and methodical, like fingers tapping the glass. The operator told me to stay on the line, to get to a safe spot. I crouched behind the washer and dryer, phone pressed to my ear, listening as the footsteps moved around the perimeter of the house. When the police finally arrived, they found a small hole in the window screen and long, thin scratches on the sill, as if someone had tried to wedge their way inside. Outside, the grass was trampled, but there were no footprints leading away, only a faint smear of mud heading toward the tree line, then nothing. We changed the locks the next day and covered that window with plywood. But for the rest of the summer, I would wake at night and check every window. Sometimes I'd find the basement light on again in the morning, even though I was sure I'd turned it off. I lived in a 2-bedroom unit on the top floor of an older complex. My roommate worked nights, so he was out when I came home from my shift. One morning, I woke up early, around 5 a.m., and noticed my phone said 3 missed calls from him. He never called that early. I called back, and he sounded half asleep, confused. He said he'd been at work all night. I asked why he called, and he said he didn't. He'd been asleep, and his phone had been off. That made my stomach drop. I got up to make coffee and noticed something odd. The living room lamp we always left on at night was off. The front door was slightly ajar. I never left the door like that. My keys were on the counter where I always left them. Nothing seemed stolen. I called my roommate again, and this time he said he had someone watch the apartment for him earlier in the week, a friend while he was out of town. He mentioned the friend had weird hours and left at odd times. I asked for a name. He couldn't remember. I went into the bedroom to check the closet because it's where I kept my wallet and passport in a small safe. The safe was open. My wallet was on top of the dresser where I never put it. The safe's combination had been untouched, but the dial was at a number that wasn't ours. I began to feel watched. It was a sensation like someone standing just out of sight. I left the front door open and called the non-emergency line. While I waited, I sat in the dark living room and listened. There was a faint scraping sound coming from the vents. Slow, deliberate, like something being dragged across the ductwork. Then I heard the bathroom door creak. My heart started pounding. I told myself to be brave. I walked toward the hallway, and the hair on my arms rose. The bathroom light turned on by itself. The shower curtain twitched, like someone had brushed past it. I ran into the bathroom and flipped on the main light. There was nothing there, no muddy footprints, no sign of forced entry, no food wrappers. Just the faint scent of cigarette smoke, though neither of us smoked. At this point, I called my roommate and told him to come home. He left work immediately. While we waited for him, I sat in the living room, my back to the wall, watching the front door. I remember thinking, if someone came back, we'd be trapped. When he arrived, we did a thorough search. Behind the dryer, in the crawl space above the air handler, there were small, scuffed handprints on the joists and a thin layer of dust that had been recently disturbed, like someone had been crawling through the vents. We moved out the next week. We found out later from a maintenance worker that the building had a history. People used the attic and event spaces to hide, or worse. The police never found anyone. I still sleep with a light on, and I check my doors at night. Sometimes I'll wake at 3 a.m. and my phone will say, "One missed call from an unknown number," and I'll lie there and count my breaths until morning.